my good friend, the President of CI, Mr. Ajay Sriram, the President to be soon, and we are just waiting for the dinner to be over for that, is Mr. Muzumdar, Mr. Forbes, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, and all the distinguished leaders of the industry, members of the CI, and friends. It's always a very tempting invitation to be at the CI forum, because CI is a brand, and you speak from there, at least your photograph comes attached to CI. So that's always a great honor and a pleasure. But also the double benefit of this, you buy one and get one, is you meet so many interesting people who represent various segments of the economic activity in India. Also many others who do so much of good work in the society, and to meet them in one roof is one of the greatest opportunity. So I really look forward to coming here, and I'm very happy I'm here again. I know you have been debating for the last 2 days as to what needs to be done in India, and I'm very impressed by this theme of this conference, Building India, a Shared Responsibility. I know CI keeps coming out with the themes for every annual meeting, and that becomes part of a theme for the rest of the year. May I make a request? Please keep this theme for the 5 years at least. I am saying this because it's such an interesting concept that if you really want to develop the country, and it's a very complex issue as to how we should really develop a country as complex as India. And therefore, if you do not have a running theme for a fairly long period of time, probably you may lose the focus. So this is a very, very important idea, and I think we should try to pursue this at least for 5 years, if not longer. And therefore, I think it's a very interesting idea. As you know, we for a long time felt, at least in the initial years of our post-independence era, that developing the country is government's sole responsibility. And in a way, rightly so. Because at that point of time, there are not enough non-state players in the country. There are hardly any organization which could have ever competed with the government in terms of competence, in terms of resources, in terms of intelligence, intellectual capital. There was hardly any institutions like that. Therefore, government had to do everything. And therefore, the first plan that India made, we are harping on this theme that state will be the driving force of change. And then, to an extent, we lost the plot, and we felt that government can do everything. And then, for various reasons, including political, we actually believed in ourselves, and then therefore we wanted others to believe that government will do everything, you don't worry about anything. That's what we told the people. That don't worry, I am here, no fear, I will do everything for you. As a result of that, we, for a long period of time, we did not allow any significant institution to come up other than the government. I know in the first few plans, particularly the first, second and third definitely, we were talking about role of civil society organization, but that time we never used civil society volunteer organization. That time when the word volunteer was not there. The word volunteer came little later when the United Nations felt calling an organization NGO has a lot of negativity in it, because we first begin with non-governmental. So that non became very important for some people. But NGOs was the word which was used, and therefore in the first few plans, in fact, Jawaharlal Nehru motivated people to form institutions like Bharat Sevak Samaj, to undertake work as arms of the government, extended arms, to do something through people's participation. Vinoba Bhave had to run a movement called Bhudan, realizing that government will not be able to, probably we need somebody to come in. But there was this was the era in which government was all dominant, omnipresent, and felt that their ability, capability to do anything. But then, after a while, the institutions came up. the non-government players, non-government actors, actually to use this term non-government actor, I'm a little worried because in many other countries, non-government actors have become more dominant. And they do something which is not always desirable. So these non-government players, non-state actors, they're all, we have to use terms carefully. But we in India, we had a lot of institutions which came out. And the so-called civil society organizations grew. And then there has been, now we are witnessing that large amount of work which is carried out outside the government. That's a very significant part. Social development is no longer the monopoly of the government. And Mr. Azim Premji is a good example, and that's why I think, I don't know whether you are honored for your work as an industrialist or your work as spending the money that you earn. In fact, he just met me some time ago, and I was saying you should be really recognized for earning good money and also spending even good part of that money. So he told me spending money is very difficult. I said, don't worry, railway is there, please spend. But we had players who have done so much of work, and there are many others. The Godrej family has been at the forefront. Tatas have done so much of work. So there are a large number of institutions. Birlas have also foundation, many others. So the non-government activity, the civil society organization really grew at a very fast pace. Industry organization. There are no industry organization worth the name when we are independent. Because the size of private sector itself was so small. So there was no question of doing anything. And then at that time, business was considered as a bad word. So therefore, thinking about a business organization, talking to them as a government, we would like to do it in hiding, not in open. So therefore, the non-actors really came up. And now the question that is coming up is, the challenges that we are facing today, could government alone handle this? And we have experience has shown that unless we have partnerships, we cannot have a successful model of development. The partnership with civil society organizations, with the business, with state governments and central government, with local governments and state governments, local government and central government. And that's why, in fact, the Finance Commission, 12th, I think the beginning was made in the 12th Finance Commission. First time, the Finance Commission used to always, devolution was only to the state government. The first time the devolution also went to the local governments. And that is, of course, because of the 73rd and the 74th Amendment to the Constitution, which gave some special rights to the local government. But the point is that central government, state government, local governments are again not enough to deal with the problem. And therefore, we needed a partnership to come up. And therefore, now the new challenge is how do you deal with these issues unless we have this shared responsibility? Because if you feel that you are responsible for cleaning and I am responsible for dirtying the street can never be cleaned. Because this is my job. As a citizen, I have right to throw anything wherever I want. But it is your responsibility as a government to clean it. If this is the responsibility and this is the accountability concept we've come out, then we'll never be able to clean the country, clean any railway station or any, for that matter, any street, anything. So if it is not a shared responsibility, the concept that you're making, we'll never be able to achieve the result. So therefore, we really need this. But to make this happen, to have shared responsibility for building India, I think there is a presupposition here. And that presupposition is that we have a shared goal. How you can have a shared responsibility if you do not have a shared goal? And therefore, I think we really need to find out how do you develop a shared vision for the country. Could we have an action plan which is a shared responsibility of developing that plan? Then the ownership of people to implement it will also take place as a consequence of that. And therefore, we really need to develop a shared vision, and then the concept of shared responsibility come. And I request CI, I know you have been doing something, even Adi has been chairing that group called India at 75. And therefore, I think something like this should really be taken forward and taken in the right spirit. I know in India derailment is common, so I derailed from my speech as a railway minister, and therefore I was talking about this. I was very impressed with the concept that you talked about, and also by CB told me don't speak about railways much, because you're tired of listening about railways. I didn't say that, but probably. But this is an important issue, and therefore if you look at it, I think if we can join hands together, we can do wonders. And there's one example of that. I know some of you are sensitive to this subject, but whether like it or not, it's a reality that in the Companies Act has made a provision that 2% of net profit should be earmarked for CSR. Now I know, it's a good idea, bad idea, but it's a reality. So let's go take that idea forward. Suppose if we take this idea and try to blend this money available from the corporate sector, which is going to run into tens of thousands in the next few years' time, as corporate profits will soar, thanks to our government's economic policies, then obviously your profit will grow. The money that is available with corporate sector for CSR spending, which is mandatory, statutory, could we marry that money with Rural Development Ministry budgets, the state government Rural Development Ministry budgets, and also the money that is available for a lot of such work outside, like there are a lot of NGOs and civil society organizations trying to do it. If we can pull it together, have a proper plan in place, just imagine how much of the benefit that one could accrue as a result of this combined activity. So the shared responsibility concept could be extended to many areas, and therefore I think this is something which is a great idea that we should keep pursuing. I know, in fact, in the railway budget, I had mentioned this very concept in a different way. I said the railways, one of the 4 or 5 thrust areas for the railways, the major objective of the railway is building partnerships. Because it is impossible that we could build railway network what is desired to be built unless we have this partnership. So first partnership we have talked about with the state governments. And I'm very happy that at least all the major states of India, barring the northeast states and the Himachal and Jammu and Kashmir and Delhi, because they are the states which does not really require that type of a intervention, all of the states agreed, and we did not actually target them. We did not request them to join. They will be more than happy to join also. Like Uttarakhand, I was there yesterday and they are also willing to join. But all other states are willing to join, so that first time we'll have a system in which the shared responsibility, shared concept will be reality. In the state government and railways, we'll have a separate institution, separate company registered for that particular state. You can imagine the amount of benefit that could accrue. First is an increase in bandwidth itself, because now the implementation could happen through various institutions, not just through the railways. And therefore this is a one building block of partnership that could really help us. Station development. We realize that stations have to be developed. We really need to bring private sector. We need to bring other players to do it. There is a land right, the air right, which can be exploited to build a much better station. To do that, we are thinking about a partnership of a different kind. The local self-government, and I was in Bangalore the other day, I was talking to the municipal corporation. They'll be very happy to join along with the state government and railways to develop it. Just imagine this floor space index, or FAS that you call it in Delhi. If you can just local government, which has a authority to allow that extra FSI to be given, and the urban development ministries of the state government, if they are partners themselves, they'll be more than happy to do it, and this we can get much better facilities there, and the revenues that will come out from that could also be shared with all the local governments, along with of course the developer who is going to come through a proper internationally accepted bidding processes. So that could be a second level of partnership. The third partnership, and that is something very interesting, and just now my good friend Mr. Piyush Goyal was speaking here. He's also coal minister. So we are using his money to build the infrastructure, to evacuate coal from the mines, and by using his money, we'll start getting freight. So it's a double win-win situation, wherein they get evacuation, their capex is borne by them because they have money, and we get always the freight revenues out of that. Same thing we are trying to do with other ministries in the next few years' time. A few weeks' time. So therefore, we are working on partnership of very kind, including with the private sector, of course. So therefore, if you really come out with this idea of shared vision, shared responsibility, in which all of us can participate to build India, it could be a great game changer. There are certain strengths with each of these players. There is something which private sector can do, I don't think government can do at all. But there is something which only government can do, I don't think any other sector in the country can do. What civil society organization can do, particularly the NGOs, they also can do significantly better job because they do with commitment. If I am going to do rural development because I am a rural development minister, but if NGO is going to do it because he believes in that, then it's the difference between a home cooked food because the wife has made it for the husband, mother has made it for the child, or a sister has made it for the brother, and a best food that is made by any chef in the country is not going to be as good tasting, because that is something which is made with a lot of commitment. So if civil society, NGOs are going to do something because they believe in it, will produce far better results than somebody who is going to do it because it's a mandate to do it and because it is required to do it. So therefore, if we can bring the strengths of individual organizations and individual entities in the country and try to earmark the responsibilities that you do the job better because you are best equipped to do it, and then we always, of course, are working towards a common goal, which is a shared goal, and the shared responsibility becomes a result of this. I think, can you imagine the amount of benefit that we could bring into the country? And therefore, I think one of the shared visions should be this $20 trillion economy, which our Prime Minister has talked about. This is absolutely doable. It's doable in a very foreseeable future. It's a matter of arithmetic to arrive at the $20 trillion number from $2 trillion. It all depends upon in how many years you want to multiply your economy, double your economy. 2 will become 4, 4 becomes 18, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. And that is something which China has done. China could grow their economy to about $9 trillion only because they could multiply their economy in the last 30, 35 years, 60 times from what it was at that when they started beginning in 1978. Only because they had a double-digit growth. So they could double their economy in a much shorter period. If we try to reach, if not double, at least 9% for the next 10, 15 years, you can imagine the multiplier effect that will have and the amount of money it can add. And with that, the vision, that figure, then you can definitely decide how to allocate the resources into the social sectors to ensure that this poverty is not there, the infrastructure deficit is completely wiped out, we create a better quality of life for the people. All of that can fall in place. But again, for anything that we do, we need resources, and those resources will not be available unless we have economic growth. And to get economic growth, it will never happen unless we have infrastructure in place. We have enough entrepreneurship in this room and others, so there is no dearth of that. What is needed is the quality infrastructure that we create, and that is why rail, electricity, communication, and all of the networks, ports, all of that we have to put in place, and that is why we need resources. Those resources will be available, we can borrow and build it, because nowhere in the world you could create infrastructure from the current income of your budget. It is impossible you could do that. If somebody is thinking that I can only create it from my present budget income, we'll never be able to create infrastructure. Because then we'll have to probably increase the taxes so much to get that income so that I can build infrastructure, that all that infrastructure that is built will be something which nobody will be able to use. Because the people would have paid so much of tax, it will become so high cost and it is not going to work. So therefore we need to borrow. We need to borrow that money, put it into the most judicious use so that we build it at the lowest possible cost. Build it up, automatically the benefits of that will come, and the next few years' time you will see a completely different change into the economy, into the social life, into the even index where we are not feeling happy. In fact, I'm to oversimplify it, but even these road rage incidents, even this type of brutality that we are seeing in the society, somewhere down the line, if we engage people in something productive, somewhere we can give them a decent way of life, better income for them, I think this also incidence will go down. But for that, essentially, if you do not have economic activity, if you do not have enough income level rising, it will never happen. And therefore, I think we should really focus on that. Therefore, if we have a broad shared vision, and all of us commit to make it as a joint responsibility to implement it, I think things will happen. This is always the question when you ask a person that whose responsibility is to raise a child. Is it mothers or fathers? But then one can extend the argument and say, is it not grandmothers and grandfathers? Yes, of course it is theirs. Then is it not somebody cousin's responsibility to it also? Yes, it is also his. So therefore, a child who is groomed by not just by his parents alone, but also by his siblings, also by his grandparents, is a child who becomes a perfect child because he receives everything. This is also true for a tree. When it comes up in a biodiversity, the tree blossoms better, bears a better fruit than something which you can make it in the greenhouse. The tree will also grow faster, but may not have the type of natural ingredients that the tree should have and the type of fruits that it produces will have. Therefore, if you do not have it as a shared responsibility, it will never be successful, and that is what we should do. What we do to the child, I think we should do to the country and try to develop it as a joint responsibility. So I really wish you all the success. I hope you will all contribute as you have been doing before, and a person like me can only be there to help you wherever I could in terms of achieving this great endeavor of all of us to make India a far better place than what it is today. Thank you very much.